What is going on, everybody? We're back. Week 2 NFL fantasy football. I'm here to work on setting my lineups, answer some of your start sit questions, talk about CMC, IR. What are we doing? Um, let's get into it. I'm just gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into it. I've had a long day today, so I kind of want to get through these. But again, I'm here for you. So any questions you guys got, throw them in the comments. Let's have some fun. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna share my screen just like we did last week, guys. If you joined us last week, first league we got up is the Fear Boners. I am 1-0 in this league. Got sitting in fifth place right now. Only scored 96 points. Total points, I'm ninth place out of 10. Kind of a rough week last week, but let's see what we do this week. We got Justin Herbert as our QB, Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, and Devonta Smith are our wide receivers. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor are our running backs. Kyle Pitts is our tight end. Was so happy to see him get on the board last week and get that touchdown. Now we just need Drake London to do something this week. All right. Tony Pollard's in our flex right now. We'll see if we stick with that. We got Amari Cooper, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jameson Williams, Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson. Khalil Shakir would have got me 10 points yesterday. I'm okay with him being on the bench. We did get Demarcus Robinson on waivers this last week. And then Jake Bates, that's our kicker. And I got the Pittsburgh defense this week going up against Denver, taking on the rookie Bo Nix. I'm okay with that. I like that matchup. I thought the Pittsburgh defense looked pretty good last week. Hopefully they have another good week this week. The only thing I'm thinking about here is this flex position. The Jets are all right. Now they weren't that great last week, but they are still a pretty tough matchup defense wise. But I don't know that there's really anybody that jumps out that I would go ahead and bench. Amari Cooper was who I had in there last week, and he did it's just a bag of nothing. Deshaun Watson looks awful. Team doesn't look that great. Jackson Smith-Njigba didn't do much. Now, JMO did have himself a good week last week. He's listed as questionable trend towards playing in Sunday's matchup. He's dealing with an ankle issue. It says that they'll make their official before kickoff. I don't know. I think I'm going to leave JMO on the bench again this week. I think I'm going to roll with Tony Pollard, who had himself a great game last week in this league. He would have gotten me 18.4 points last week with 16 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 12 yards. He didn't look too bad. The Jets defense looked pretty bad last week, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and stick with this lineup here. I'm okay going into this matchup with this lineup. I like Justin Herbert taking on Carolina this week. Drake London. I like Drake London this year. A little bit of a rough week last week. What are we looking at last week? He had 2 catches on 3 targets for 15 yards. I think Kirk Cousins is just going to get better as the season goes on with this team. He's going to be okay. I think he's going to be all right. I'm not going to freak out right now. It's 1 week. I think Drake London is still the number 1 out there, and I'm okay with it. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, obviously, right? Especially with CMC out, you're going to see more. Brandon Ayuk, he's gonna have a lot of opportunity, a lot of options. What do we have? We had 2 catches on 5 targets last week for 28 yards. He missed training camp, right? But I think he's going to be all right. I have no concerns about Brandon Ayuk. Devonta Smith, he had himself was pretty good last week with 7 catches on 8 targets for 84 yards. I like the matchup up against Atlanta this week. Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is sit and leave. The only time he's coming out is by week 1, or if he gets hurt. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have himself a great year this year. Jonathan Taylor, same thing, going up against Green Bay, where that offense isn't going to be doing much, with Malik Willis leading the way for that Green Bay offense. not 20, but Kyle Pitts had himself a pretty good game last week. 3 catches on 3 targets, 26 yards and a touchdown, right? It's a touchdown that saved it. Kirk Cousins did not have a great start to the season, but again, I think Kirk Cousins is just going to be fine, and the Falcons are just going to be fine. So we're going to go ahead and say this lineup is a set. I'm not making any change-ups to this lineup for this week. Let's go ahead and move on to our next league, which is going to my computer's acting up on me. Let's just go here. All right. This is the Strikeout Beer League. This is the league for our. This is our listener league. I am 1-0 here. I'm sitting in third place right now, going up against Barry Babernath, who also won his matchup last week. So let's see what we got. Now, this is a super flex QB that you're getting a point per completion on this one. It's a high scoring game. Josh Allen only got me 38 points this last week. A little bit of a rough start for him in this league. Again, guys, that's kind of rough for this league. Last week he got me 80 points, just to kind of give you a comparison. 13 for 139, 1 touchdown this last week versus the 4 touchdowns he had last week, 2 passing and 2 rushing. Drake London again. I'm okay with Drake London right now. I think he's going to have a better week this week. I think Atlanta's just going to get better as the season goes on. Offensively, I'm all right with him right now. Davante Adams, obviously it's Davante Adams, right? He got you 5 catches for 59 yards last week. He got me 13 points in this league. Okay week. Hopefully that gets better. Jahmyr Gibbs, going with him. Ramondre just went off last week. Ramondre had himself a good game last week. 25 rushes for 120 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 6 yards. Ramondre seems to be a just start and just let him sit. You'll pull him your bye week. I pull him week 14. Other than that, he's going to play. Kyle Pitts, we've talked about him before. Jerome Ford, I think Jerome Ford was going to have a better week this week with Jacksonville. I think it's a much better matchup. He had 12 rushes for 44 yards and a touchdown. He also had 7 targets in the passing game with 6 catches for 25 yards, getting you those PPR points, right? He's going to be the bell cow there, especially while I don't want to change anything, especially while Nick Chubb is still out. And then Justin Herbert at QB. Obviously, I love Justin Herbert this year. I think he's slated to have a great season this year. I think he's going to look much better under Jim Harbaugh. And a favorable matchup this week. Carolina, right? I'm definitely going to be playing. I have Ken Walker and let's see here. And he's out. Do you think Zach Charbonnet will? Yeah, I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be just fine. That's a matchup where, interchangeable right there. I like Zach Charbonnet's done good when given the opportunity. It's just mostly he's had Kenneth Walker in front of him, who's a great running back. So yeah, if that's who you got to plug in and play there, I think you're going to be just fine with Zach Charbonnet this week. He's going to produce whatever Kenneth Walker would have produced for you. So yeah, I like that move there. Going with him. So you'll be okay. I think you'll be all right with that. All right. On my bench, I got Javonte Williams, Deshaun Watson, Jameson Williams, Blake Corum, Keon Cole would have gotten me a big old fat goose egg this last week. Jeff Wilson, I picked him up. I just kind of had an empty spot there on the roster. And you didn't know if A-Chain was going to play or not, went ahead and picked him up, put him in. I mean, I didn't start him or anything like that. Jerry Jeudy, I think he had himself a decent week this last week. He had 3 catches on 8 targets. He's definitely getting a lot of targets there. 25 yards and a touchdown. I would like to see a little bit better production on 8 targets. But hey, one more I have Njoku, but he's hurt. So Isaiah Likely or Colby Parkinson for the Rams. That's a good one because I don't know that Isaiah Likely is going to continue to put up the same production week after week after week that he did last week. I think what you saw last week, and it's something that you really had to pay attention to and go back and look at. But Mark Andrews, the Chiefs' game plan was to take Mark Andrews out of the game. And that's what they did, and they double teamed him a lot. So you're doubling up Mark Andrews, and I think that just opened up Isaiah Likely to have himself a big game. And I don't think teams are gonna see that you can't continue to do that. Is what you're gonna see is teams are gonna be like, okay, we can't keep double covering Mark Andrews because that's just gonna leave Likely open. So I think you'll see some more favorable coverages for Mark Andrews this week. Colby Parkinson, I do think he is going to get a little bit of an uptick in production with Puka being out. Um, this is kind of a toss up, a little bit tougher one for me. I think Likely might be the play because Likely's he's getting the red zone targets, right? And I think you're going to see. I think you got a higher potential for the TDs there with Likely. Likely is a hell of a player, and the thing that you're going to be seeing with the Ravens, I think, is a lot of two tight end sets with both of them out there running routes. And whoever's getting open is who's going to be getting the ball, right? But I think those are probably your top two receivers there in Baltimore, honestly. Um, or okay, what's our or? Or it's PPR. So I mean, here's the other. I do think Parkinson's going to see a bit of an uptick, but you didn't see it in the second half last week in that Rams game. He got a majority of his receptions there in that first half, um, not so much there in the second half. Who are the Rams? You know what? I do need to take a look at this because I think I do need to know who the Rams are playing this week. Um, if you got that real quick off the top right there, if you want to just go ahead and let me know, because I got to look up the schedule, because I actually don't have. Oh wait, I have Blake Corum, don't I? Or is that a different league? I think that's here. Yeah, they're playing Arizona. I think Arizona's a good matchup. Yeah, the Cardinals. Um, Man, I think but you're going to see a heavy dose of Cooper Cup too. I almost want to lean towards Isaiah Likely. Um, I think the potential. You've got a higher ceiling with Isaiah Likely over Colby Parkinson, right? We've seen the production out of Likely. We've seen the type of numbers that he can put up, and I think you've got a higher ceiling there with Likely versus Parkinson. It's kind of this is what you're hoping for, right? He had a decent week last week, but nothing great. Um, he does have a better matchup against the Cardinals versus last week going up against Detroit. Detroit's a much improved defense, right? But I just think you have a higher ceiling with Isaiah Likely. So I think me personally, I think I will go ahead and start Isaiah Likely over Colby Parkinson. That's what I'm going to go with. I think let's lock that in. Let's lock in Isaiah Likely, higher ceiling, um, bigger play potential, definitely a red zone target. Where the thing with Stafford, I love Stafford to death. You know, I got my Tigers hat on. I'm from Detroit, live in Texas now, but huge Lions fan. Love Stafford to death. But when he has a receiver and he locks onto that receiver, that's who he's going to. Bottom line. And you saw it last week with Cooper Cup, right? Puka went down and he just locked in on Cup and was looking for Cup every single play. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and lock in Likely for this one. Let's lock that one in. All right, so let's kind of get back to this. Look at this a little bit. Yeah, thank you so much for the question. That is, I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming in too. If you got any more, just let me know. So I think I'm good to go with this one. The only thing I'm looking at is Drake London and Jameson Williams. Also, I drafted Waddle in 3 leagues. And what do you think the Dolphins and Waddle for? I don't like the Dolphins this year now without Tua. Um, yeah, I don't like that at all. Hopefully you got some depth, but I don't like Waddle. I don't like Tua, or not Tua. Obviously not Tua, right? And Tua's a guy that I have in a couple of dynasty leagues that I'm in, and it sucks for sure because I think one league I got Jared Goff, so I'm good to go. But in the other league, my backup, it's a dynasty league, so I wasn't able to get anybody else, is Gardner Minshew, which I'm not excited about having to start Minshew this week, but it is what it is. There really isn't anybody out there for sure. He's my flex in my main league. Yeah. I don't with the quarterback situation there. Now, I think I've heard some things where they might be looking at possibly bringing in some sort of like a veteran type thing. And like, I don't know if Flacco's still out there, but if they go and pick up Flacco, I'm okay with that. You know, I don't know if Flacco's on a team right now. I think the last I saw, he wasn't on a team. But I mean, Flacco's a guy that came in the end of the year last year and did great with Cleveland. And I think if you put him on that Miami offense, yeah. I have Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas, and Shakir. Yeah. And I think I was actually looking here. No, it's Keon Coleman that got me nothing. Shakir had himself a couple catches yesterday. Brad Thompson is a guy that I think is going to be doing pretty good. Um, Luckily, you got another week to kind of keep an eye on that situation and see how those guys all do this week. Deontay Johnson, that Carolina team is just so bad, and Bryce Young is just really bad. Um, I don't like the Carolina situation at all. But yeah, you've got this. That's one of those where you keep an eye on everything this week, and see what happens, and then we take a look at what you got for next week and see what we're going to plug and play in there. Hopefully, Brian Thompson has himself a good game, and you're like, okay, and that kind of sets your mind at ease a little bit to be able to plug him in over Waddle, because I just don't know what you're going to get. Scott, was it Skylar Thompson? I I don't know what you're going to get out of that guy. You know. I don't like that situation there in Miami without Tua. And unfortunately, Tua might be done. I think it might be time for that guy. Um, the only thing I'm looking at is possibly Jameson Williams. He is dealing with an ankle injury. He should be good to go. Jerry Jeudy did have a lot of targets last week, but I think I'm going to go ahead and roll with Drake London again this week and Devontae Adams, and just, hey, they're number one guys. Let's see what they do this week. So let's go ahead and lock this one in. We'll lock this lineup in. Let's roll on to our next one. The next leagues I'm going to be looking at are some leagues that I just kind of did some bits with. Legatron, I am 0-1 in this league. Projected to win this week, 106 to 86. In this league, I drafted a kicker. I just clicked on the wrong one. I drafted a kicker and a defense first, just to see how I do. I got Justin Herbert, Drake London. I ended up with Drake London in a lot of leagues because, again, I believe in him, and that's one that could definitely bite me in the butt. I am going to have to pick up a tight end because I don't think Jake Ferguson is not looking like he's going to be playing tomorrow. So I'm going to have to find a replacement for him. The nice thing is James Cook just went off yesterday. 78 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 1 catch for 17 yards and a touchdown. Just had himself a day. I don't have any other tight ends on my roster right now. And it sucks because I don't necessarily have anybody that I kind of want to drop. Now, I think I'm going to have to work J.K. Dobbins into my lineup for this week. And I think that's going to be in that flex position there. So we're going to work J.K. Dobbins in, especially up against Carolina. Sorry, J-Mo, I love you, but J.K. Dobbins is the move here for sure. Bench Javonte Williams, Christian Watson didn't do much week 1. You saw 5 targets, 3 catches, 13 yards. He did have the touchdown, so that's good. But we're not going to be cutting him. We're definitely going to be keeping him. We're definitely keeping Jameson Williams. Jake Bates was my number 1 pick, and my number 2 pick was the Baltimore defense. What What did Zach Moss do last week? 9 for 44 and a touchdown. He got me 13 points. I can't drop him. I don't know that I necessarily want to drop Stafford. I mean, I'm okay. I think Stafford might be the player to drop here. I think Jake Ferguson able to practice all week, and he never had much of a chance to play. He's dealing with a knee issue. Do I drop Jake, or maybe I just drop Jake Ferguson? Start Ford or Zeke Ford. You've got a where's it? What was it? Yeah, I'm starting Ford there for sure. Um, Ford's more of a bell cow. Zeke, I mean, he got you like 40 yards rushing last week. And I mean, yeah, Ford had that too, but I think Ford's definitely got a higher ceiling. Especially is that a PPR format? Especially if it's a PPR format, I'm definitely starting Ford over Zeke in that. Because Ford's going to get those receptions. He's going to catch those passes out of the backfield. He's more explosive, more big play potential. I like Ford over Zeke. I mean, even in the standard league, I think I'm going Ford over Zeke, but definitely in a PPR format. My Superflex Dynasty League: Jordan Love, Herbert, and Caleb Williams. What's the question that I have? Yeah, well, you don't have Jordan Love right now, but I'd be starting. Well, I guess you're starting your Superflex, so you're starting two, so you're starting Herbert and Caleb Williams. Hopefully, Caleb has a better week this week than he did last week. He's the guy that was on your team for the group assignment and did nothing. I think he averaged 3 yards per reception last week. That was his big welcome to the NFL. Hey, you're playing in a big time game now, not a preseason game where defenses aren't really bringing anything to you. You're starting to see a lot more blitz packages and change ups in the defense, and you're not just getting plain old vanilla ice cream defense. So yeah, it's a PPR. Just feel this could be a 2 TD game for Zeke versus the Saints. I think he is a safer for a TD than Ford. I I mean maybe but again especially PPR format, you're going to get more receptions out of Ford. You are. Um, what was the number? I was actually just looking at him, and I want to say it's this league right here. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, Jerome Ford, because I put him in my lineup this week. Uh, you're getting Jacksonville. Jacksonville's not that great of a team. He was targeted 7 times last week and had 6 catches. So he's going to be heavily targeted in the pass game, as well as he's getting 12 rushes for 44 yards. That Dallas defense is a lot better than that Jacksonville defense. So I'm looking at 100 combined yards here. Maybe even 100 yards rushing plus some receiving, but definitely 100 yards combined overall, and at least 1 touchdown. Plus you're going to be getting those receptions, those points per the reception. So that's what I'm looking at there. Last thing, I made a trade. I gave up James Conner and Quentin Johnston for Chris Godwin and a 3rd and 4th round for the rookie draft next year. I think that's a pretty good deal. I think James Conner, this might be his last year being relevant in fantasy football. But I think at some point in time, Trey Benson's going to take over that backfield in Arizona. Trey Benson's just a more talented all around back than Connor. And then Quentin Johnston, I mean, you haven't seen anything really out of him. You know, they drafted Lad McConkey there. He's going to be the go-to guy. Chris Godwin he's still got a little bit left in the tank. Plus, you're getting a 3rd and a 4th round draft pick for the rookie pick next year. Yeah, I think that's a good deal. I think you made that's a nice deal that you made there. But yeah, give me Jerome Ford over Zeke this week, especially in PPR. Watson is so bad though, and they can't get anything going. He is so bad, but he dumps off a lot. As you saw again, Jerome Ford had 7 targets last week, 6 catches. He's gonna break things. He's gonna have. I think he's gonna have more big plays. I'm with you. Yeah, Ford is safer. I just think you're gonna have a bigger game out of him. And here's the other thing you got to look at: that Saints defense is better than that Jacksonville defense. If there's one thing that Dennis Allen, the head coach of the Saints, is good at, it's defense. So I think you're definitely going to have um it's just a tougher defensive matchup is what I'm seeing there. So that's my pick right there, especially in a PPR format. So um keep the questions coming, guys coming. Keep the questions coming. I definitely appreciate it. Appreciate the interaction. Thank you guys so much for joining. I've still got some more leagues to go through. I'm gonna get back over to my defense and kicker league. Um, let's pull this back up here. Here we go. And let's make sure we got the right guys that we want in here. I'm sticking with Drake London this week. I moved J.K. Dobbins into the starting lineup. Keenan Allen, you don't know what's going on injury wise. Plus, that's a tough matchup against Houston. The Houston defense is really good. I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle a little bit tomorrow, again for the second week in a row. Zach Moss, I like him, but I'm not benching Ramondre for him. I do need to go and pick myself up a tight end. I think we're going to go ahead and drop Jake Ferguson. So let's take a look and see who some of these tight ends are that we have out there. Hopefully we got some good options. I probably should have looked at this before, but you didn't know for sure what was going on with him. He didn't practice all week, so that's a little bit tougher. I do want to see. Okay, we got season totals. Juwan Johnson is a guy that I do like. Start Wan'Dale Robinson or Demarcus Robinson. Wan'Dale saw a lot of targets last week. Let me pull him up while we're over here. Here, let's pull up Wan'Dale Robinson. He saw 12 targets last week. He only caught 6, but 12 targets. They're playing Washington, Washington's not that great. My issue with Demarcus Robinson is I think Wan'Dale is going to have a higher ceiling because he's getting the targets. He got the lion's share of the targets last week. 12 targets, 6 catches. He only had 44 yards. I think Minnesota's definitely a tougher defense than Washington is. With Demarcus Robinson, I do like him, and I did pick him up in some of my leagues. But Cooper Kupp's going to get all the targets there. That we know that. We saw that last week. Cooper Kupp's going to get all those targets. Plus, Tyler Robinson, I believe his name is Tyler or Johnson. He saw a decent amount of targets. Colby Parkinson saw some targets. Demarcus Robinson, I do think, is the number 2 guy there, but how many targets he's going to get versus how many targets you're going to get with Wan'Dale Robinson. And Wan'Dale's a guy that they drafted last year to be the number 1 guy, dealt with a ton of injuries. So you've got him, plus they're going to try and work Malik Neighbors in as well. But you saw a higher target rate for Wan'Dale Robinson last week. And he's got the potential to be the number 1. Demarcus Robinson's not going to be the number 1 target there. He's just not. That's Cooper Kupp. And Stafford's going to target him probably half of his passes or darn near close. I mean, last week, what was the number that Kupp, what do you have, like 18 receptions last week? Let's pull it up real quick. He got 14 receptions for 110 yards on 21 targets. 21 targets. It's safe to say everybody who drafted Cooper Kupp late this year got a hell of a pick. He had 49 pass attempts this last week, Stafford did, and 24 of those went to Cooper Kupp. So half of the time he drops back the pass, he's looking for Cooper Kupp. So I think you got a better matchup with Washington with Robinson, with Wan'Dale Robinson. That is. Let me clarify. The Rams are playing Arizona this week. Arizona is a bad defense as well. I just think you got a little bit more potential there with Wan'Dale. with that line share of the targets that we saw. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and go with on that one. Let me know what you think. You thinking the same thing? That's kind of where I'm leaning on that one. Tight end wise, I'm kind of looking at Juwan Johnson with the Saints. He had himself a pretty good game last week. He's the number one guy out there. Um, outside of that, you got Chig Okanawanu. He had two catches for 15 yards. He did have a touchdown. They're playing. Who's Tennessee playing? They're playing the Jets, so a little bit of a tougher matchup there. But I think Juwan Johnson's going to get more targets there for sure. I think he's got bigger play potential. Kobe Parkinson's a guy that we've been talking about a little bit. Had some questions on him. He had 4 catches for 47 yards last week. That Arizona matchup, but again, he's not going to be getting a ton of targets. Austin Hooper, he only had 2 catches for 31 yards last week. Hunter Henry, 2 catches for 18 yards. Etienne or Ford, pick one full PPR. Ooh. That one's a little bit tougher. You saw Tank Bigsby really step it up last week. Guys going up against each other. Etienne had 12 catches for 44 yards, or 12 rushes for 44 yards and a touchdown, which is exactly what Jerome Ford had last week. Only 2 catches for 15 yards. So what you're looking at is I think it's the PPR that does it for me on that one. I think for me, I think it's the PPR that's going to be the difference in this one. He only stepped out because Jags thought they were going to win, so they gave him snaps. Yeah, I think I think it's the PPR that is the difference in this though, because as we talked, we saw last week Jerome Ford had 7 targets, 6 catches on 7 targets last week. He didn't have a ton of yards, but he's getting those receptions, so he's getting those points. So he's getting that point every time, and that's not something Etienne's going to do for you. Etienne is more of your runner, your power. Yeah, he had 7 targets, 6 catches last week. Jerome Ford did, as opposed to Etienne had 2 catches. What were his targets? Let me look here. He had 3 targets for 2 catches for 15 yards. So a lot less. Yeah, I'm leaning Ford too, and because of the PPR aspect. I think it's good. And I Ford's a really good back, and he showed it last year. He really stepped up and had a good year last year when Chubb went down. And I think he's going to continue to have a good year this year. I think it's going to be tough when Nick Chubb does come back for them just to say, all right, Jerome, go have a seat, because you don't know what you're going to get with Chubb when he comes back too, whenever that is. But yeah, I think I'm going to lean forward on this one, mostly because it's a PPR. Haven't seen enough of DeMarcus. I mean, we saw Kupp and Puka both have elite weeks together, so I know he's capable, but he could also go out there and see 3 targets this week. Yeah, and that's where I'm leaning with it, because Kupp's getting the ball and Kupp's going to get a majority of those targets there. Again, he got 50% of the targets last week of the Stafford passes. We did see some out of Demarcus Robinson last year when he kind of took over. At first it was when Cooper Kupp went down and it was Puka that was balling out. Tutu Atwell was the number 2 there for a while, and Demarcus kind of stepped up and took over that role for Tutu. And Tutu's actually now like the number 4 option there when everybody's healthy. He'll be the number 3 option now as the wide receiver. And you saw something out of Demarcus Robinson, but nothing great. Again, it's just he's not going to be getting a ton of those targets. So now, if I got Etienne, I'm starting him 100% over. Doesn't matter the matchup. Etienne upside is way higher. Wouldn't even be a consideration. All right. I mean, I I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out, right? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'll write this one down, and I'll talk about it after the matchup. I'll throw a little short out there on this one. ETN versus Ford. PPR. That's what people are telling me. His ceiling is better. I just think the PPR aspect. I'm going forward because of the PPR aspect. He's going to get targeted. Um, had a decent week last week up against a really good defense in Dallas. Facing a not so great defense in Jacksonville this week. I'm leaning forward. We'll see. You know, full PPR again. I'll post a video after this is all said and done. Tomorrow after the games were played. After actually that game because they're going up against each other. We'll see. I'm going forward. Hello, unless I have some change in mind or feeling. Yeah, and sometimes sometimes you just have those feelings too, right? You sometimes you can look at the numbers all you want, and you can look up the matchups, but sometimes you just get that gut feeling, and sometimes you just got to go with that gut feeling. I can't tell you how many times I've crunched the numbers, I've looked at everything, looked at the matchups, and then I'm just sitting there. I'm doing a little tinker stinker before the games. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going with someone else, and then I do it. And sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, that's where I'm going with, and we'll see how it goes. I hope I'm right, but we'll see. You ne- you never know. I got to get this guy picked up over here real quick, guys. Thank you guys all for coming in. I definitely appreciate it. We've seen a huge number, a spike in subs to the page this week. Appreciate it, guys. I know we're getting a lot of questions, a lot of comments on that perfect lineup. So that's something that NFL puts out every week, and we just kind of share it and just kind of get your guys' thoughts on it. I'm going to add Juwan Johnson over here, guys, for Ferguson, with Ferguson being out, not knowing how long he's going to be out for. I don't have anybody else I want to drop. That's the thing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make that move, and then let me just make sure that I do this. The crazy thing is, like, when you're doing it on your computer, like I'm doing, it doesn't give you the option to automatically put them in your starting lineup like it does on your phone. ETN had two TD taken away from him last week. One on a holding call, and then he fumbled on like the one. Well, hey, a fumble's his fault. That's not that's his fault. So that's what you can't the holding call, okay, right? But the fumble, that's you, man. That's on him. And you got a guy that's gonna be fumbling. Whew, buddy. My house depends on this, so I'll let you know after if I'm homeless or not. All right, man. Hey, I hope you still have a home. I hope you still have a home for sure. You're all right. He is the red zone man. Yeah. More or Flowers non PPR. More. I'm assuming that's DJ Moore. Let me know for sure. But I'm assuming that's it's on you. Oh man, don't put that pressure on me, man. Just let me know for sure. I'm assuming it's DJ Moore because I don't know why we would be comparing Elijah Moore or Zay Flowers. That's a tough one. What did I gotta take a look and see what Zay Flowers did this last week? I don't know for sure what he did and what his target share looked like. Yeah, like I said, I don't know why we were discussing Elijah Moore and Zay Flowers. 10 targets, 6 catches, 37 yards, 2 rushing attempts for 14 yards. A good matchup against Vegas. I do like that matchup there. The Bears are playing Houston though. I don't like that matchup. And you just didn't see Caleb Williams showed you a bag of nothing. He was like, "Hey guys, here's what I have." And he showed you a bag and it had absolutely nothing in it. Now, the thing I do like about DJ Moore is he's one play away from having a big week. Now, I know you said it's non PPR, so that doesn't necessarily matter. The receptions, he saw 8 targets last week for 5 catches, 36 yards, 1 rush for 14 yards. The one thing about the Bears is they will try and get him the ball. I like the matchup for Zay Flowers more than I do the matchup for DJ Moore. Zay Flowers he's competing for receptions with you got Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. Now is Rome out this week? I've been at the ball fields all day today, guys, so I really haven't had a chance to look at much. Rome is questionable. MCL is based on expected in game, so you're unsure about that. Ravens do. Let's see here. The only thing is Ravens should be positive game script, and that could be 20 plus rushes from Henry this week. That's true. Versus the Bears, who will probably be down the whole game. I think you've got bigger. Your ceiling's higher with DJ Moore. Let me say that. Your ceiling's higher there. He's the big play guy there. You don't know what Romo Dudney is going to look like. You actually don't even know what Keenan Allen's going to look like, right? He played last week, but it wasn't that great. How much is he going to play this week? I think I'm going to go with DJ Moore over Zay Flowers in this situation. Just a bigger play potential. It is definitely a tougher matchup for sure, but if you can get that guy the ball, he can make some things happen. Again, with Zay Flowers, I think Baltimore goes up big in this game, and you can see a heavy dose of Derrick Henry in this one. Yeah, I do like that. You brought that up for sure on that one because that's definitely something that you do need to worry about as well as Likely and Mark Andrews because I feel like those two guys are the top two receivers there. Malik Neighbors or Chris Olave, full PPR. You didn't see anything out of Olave this last week, if I'm correct. Even though Derek Carr had himself a good game, you only saw 2 catches on 2 targets for 11 yards. You've got a tough matchup with Dallas. Malik Neighbors is a guy that they definitely want to force the ball to. They want to get him the ball. I think like him, and I like him, and I like Wan'Dale Robinson this week up against the Washington defense. Washington's not that great. I think I'm going to go Malik Neighbors in this one over Chris Olave because you've got a bigger matchup, and they've kind of talked about wanting to work that ball into him a little bit more. Yeah, even Allen could be out. Yeah, that's the thing. Allen might be out this week. You don't really know. Thank you, man. I'm subbing. Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Crossed. Thank you. This is something I do every Saturday night, guys. Just so you know, it's a little bit later in the evening. I'm busy all day on Saturdays, and so I get out here about 10, 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. I've been on here for about 43 minutes now. With my picks, and then my partner Rapid Dave, he'll be on tomorrow morning, probably around 10 o'clock Central Time, and be able to hit you with some more of those game time decision type things and talk some more, start sit type stuff. So if you're looking for something to do tomorrow morning, make sure you're subbed and you got those notifications on because my man Rapid Dave, he's going to be going live tomorrow. I'll actually be back out at the ball fields with my daughter out at softball fields. So I'm catching all my football action after it happens tomorrow. So, but yeah, that's where I'm going with that. I like Neighbors over Olave, better matchup. The pressure's really on Daniel Jones to produce. They paid him a ton of money and let Saquon walk. I think Daniel Jones has to have a big week this week, and I think he's got potential to have it. Now, I'm not going to go pick up Daniel Jones and start him this week. Don't get me wrong. Now, maybe throw something out there for a little DFS action for Daniel Jones because you can get him pretty cheap and you might have a big game. I'm in on that. I'm in on throwing something down on that. Let's see here. Colts or Browns? D feeling Colts, but what do you think? Colts are playing. I got to take a look at this. We know Indianapolis. Here we go. I was trying to look up Colts. Playing Green Bay with Malik Willis going. I'm going Colts defense. I'm going Colts defense with Malik Willis. A guy who's been with the team for a couple of weeks. A guy who's shown he can't do it. He didn't have it was with Tennessee. He didn't have much around him, but still, um, I like the Colts going up against Green Bay and Malik Willis more than I do the Browns going up against the Jags. Um, I think that might be a little bit of a high scoring game. The problem with the Browns, I like the Browns defense, but I don't like the Browns offense. Although I have been telling you guys start Jerome Ford, right? Because I do like Jerome Ford, but I don't like Deshaun Watson. I think you get a little bit more of a heavy dose of Jerome Ford going, but I think the Browns defense might spend a decent amount of time on the field versus the Colts. I'm going with the Colts in that matchup. As soon as I saw it was Green Bay, yeah, no brainer, lock it in. You're getting Malik Willis, who's not that great at quarterback. So yeah, I'm going to lock in the Colts defense on that one. Yeah, that was kind of a yeah. The Browns defense didn't look that great last week, honestly. Now they had a tough matchup in Dallas. Dallas has got a pretty, Dak had him, so he got paid, and then he went out there and said, "Hey, this is why I got paid. This is why you guys just paid me the money," and had himself a good game. Um, the Jags aren't Dallas's offense, that's for sure, but the Jags are a pretty decent offense. But yeah, I'm going the Colts with the Malik Neighbors matchup on that one for sure. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead. Let's jump back over. So I got another league that I'm looking at here, guys. I got to get my lineup set on. This is a league where I went with heavy RB on this one. This is also a league where I kind of accidentally wasn't paying attention and went heavy Falcons. But I got Jared Goff starting at QB this week. Devontae Adams, Drake London is my wide receivers. Bijan Robinson and David Montgomery as my running backs. Kyle Pitts is my tight end. I already had Devin A-Chain play. Got me 26 points. I got Malik Neighbors here. I've said it before. I'm trusting Drake London again this week. Browns D on waivers versus Steelers and Fields. Broncos D on waivers versus the problem is I think that Broncos defense might be on the field a little bit more. I'm still going with the Colts over the Broncos D. You've seen Justin Fields can do some stuff. He didn't look great last week. I get it. But if he's got the potential to bust out. We've seen him bust out before with Chicago and take over some games running the ball. I think Fields will have a little bit of a better week this week than he did last week. It's not going to be a game changer or anything like that, but I'm still going with the Colts defense in that situation. Again, I just like the matchup against Malik Willis. Yeah, a guy who's only been on the team for a few weeks. I think it's been 3 weeks. They picked him up just before the season started, like the week before the season started. So I'm still gonna go ahead and stick with that one. Stick with the Colts defense. I want to see what Drake London does again this week. I do like the matchup with Malik Neighbors, with Washington. I'm not playing Keenan. Jameson Williams, he is dealing with a little bit of an ankle situation. If Detroit gets up big, you can see Williams maybe getting some extra rest in that game. I'm debating Herbert pretty well, but if the Chargers go up big, you can see a heavy dose. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of J.K. Dobbins there. So, yeah, so we're going to stay with Jared Goff there. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Jameson Williams. I'm not starting Christian Watson with Malik Willis. The only question is Malik Neighbors for Drake London. I'm going to stick with Drake London. I trust Kirk Cousins, and they could be down, so they could throw the ball a lot playing Philly. A tough matchup with the Eagles this week, so you can see a heavy dose of the passing game there. It is the Monday night game. Kirk Cousins normally disappears in primetime games, but you know what? It's a new team. Maybe we're seeing something new. So yeah, so let's lock this team in. Do I have my other teams right here? I can just click. Nope, that's just for this league. All right. I got one more league to look at over here, guys. I went 0 RB strategy in this one. And let's see what we got. We got Pat Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, Aaron Jones, Jerome Ford, Sam Laporta, Jordan Mason. I got to put Ramondre in over Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is playing San Francisco, so I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer there. Ramondre had himself a week last week. Much better matchup against Seattle for him versus Aaron Jones with San Francisco. George Pickens over here, Zamir White, Joe Burrow. I'm not playing Joe Burrow. Christian Watson, not playing him right now. I got Puka on the IR. Jake Bates is my kicker. I went with the Chargers defense this week. I am switching my defenses out every week over here based on matchups and the Chargers who I went with this week. So yeah, I like that. I like Jordan Mason again this week. Sam Laporta, I love him. I've been talking up Jerome Ford this week, especially in PPR leagues. I think this Yahoo league is a half-point PPR is what the standard is, but still just going to be getting the receptions there. Ramondre, I've talked about him already tonight. I like Ramondre. I like the matchup against Seattle. Deebo, I like Deebo. I like CeeDee this week. Pat Mahomes. I think CeeDee is going to go off this week, guys, after having a little bit of a rougher week last week. I think you see him getting a pretty decent amount of targets there. I've got Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow because as I was going through this draft and I was in like the 10th round and Joe Burrow was still sitting there. So I was like, man, I guess I got to draft him. If you're getting him in the 10th round, yeah, Joe Burrow just kept falling and falling. He's not really going to play much. He might be a player that I look to possibly trade away in this league after they figure things out come week 3, because that's usually what the Bengals do. I think they've gone 0-2 to start the season 4 out of the last 5 years or 3 out of the last 4 years. So Burrow's just going to sit there on my bench for right now. And of course, he's going to sit on the bench anyway. You got Pat Mahomes. Right. All right. Let's go ahead and I think that's going to do it for tonight. Unless we got any other questions, guys. I've been going for almost an hour now. If we got any more questions, guys, I'm going to hang out for another few minutes. I do have another league. Let's go ahead. Let's hold on a second here. Let's share screen. I'm going to look at a couple of my dynasty leagues with you guys. That things aren't looking so great in these. Let's add this to the stage. Here we go. We're going to scroll down. The Detroit Sentinels in this league. Let's look at my roster. These are leagues that I have Tua in, so that's not great. And starting next week, I got Jared Goff as my backup, so I'll be fine with that. Jordan Addison, that's actually a guy that I got. I don't think Addison's supposed to be playing this week, if I recall right. Won't play this week. All right, so we got to go ahead and move him to the bench. Keenan Allen's not playing. Josh Paul, what's going on with Josh? Maybe we'll go ahead and put Xavier Leggett there for right now. Let's take a look and see what's going on with Josh Palmer. Doesn't practice on Friday, questionable. So yeah, I think Xavier Leggett's going to be the play here. Again, this is a dynasty league, so I can actually go ahead and move him to the IR. They moved him to the IR this week. things aren't looking good. I think he had surgery, unlikely to play at all in the regular season, which Hollywood was a guy that I had a lot of high hopes for this year, guys, just to be honest with you. Isaiah Likely is going to go ahead and he's going in over Jawan Johnson here, guys. So we're going to throw Isaiah Likely in there. We got Rashid White, Jake Bates, 49ers defense, or the Patriots defense playing Seattle. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the 49ers defense. Can't do anything about Tua. J.K. Dobbins, I like. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to have a bounce back this week. So that's good to go. Let's go ahead and set this lineup. And then I got one more Dynasty League to look at over here. Again, this is a league where I got Tua. So that's not going to work out for me this week, guys. And unfortunately, Gardner Minshew is on my bench, is my backup. Wan'Dale Robinson, I do kind of like him this week. I don't like him more than Tyler Lockett or Jameson Williams. Maybe over, you know what? We'll do him over Tyler Algier. I kind of like Greg Dortch. He had himself a pretty decent week last week. 6 catches on 8 targets, 47 yards. They are playing the Rams. Rams defense is actually pretty tough. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with Wan'Dale in there, and we'll set that lineup. And that's all I got for you guys this week. Definitely, I appreciate everyone coming in. Cross, thank you for the sub. Chandler, thank you for hanging out. George, thank you for coming in. All the questions today, guys. Who else did we have in here? I don't want to miss anybody. We had a lot of people in here today. Kyle, thank you for hanging out. I think that's about it. Yeah. Edits, thank you for coming in. Guys, everyone who came in today, definitely appreciate it. Make sure you drop a sub, guys. Share the show, tell a friend, all that fun stuff. I'll be back again. We'll be back on Wednesday, about 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Me and Rapid Dave together, talking about the week that was and looking forward to the week that's going to be coming. Rapid Dave should be live tomorrow morning, like around 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, with his start sit segment, as well as looking at his lineups and talking about what he's thinking, what he's saying, answering your guys' questions, your start sits, your trades, your free agents you're looking at, who we picking up. Make sure you guys keep everything going. We will have the perfect and the imperfect lineup that we'll go ahead and share again with our shorts, as well as I'll have my waiver wire targets again this week. Again, the waiver wire targets are on the shorts, and I'm doing those focused on positions. Each short will be focused on position. And I think the big thing that came out of this episode today, guys, is, and I got written down here, Travis Etienne versus Jerome Ford. I'm pushing Ford this week. Again, we were talking full PPR league in this one. I think Jerome Ford is the guy to go with in the full PPR this week versus Etienne. But we had a little bit of both in the chat today. One guy said, "Hey, if I have Etienne, I'm starting him every week, no matter what." Hey, I get it. I get it. I just like the matchup I like Ford better than I do Etienne. If most leagues you can play them both, right? But the option was Etienne or Ford. My pick is Ford. We'll see. I'll post a short on that one after that game is played tomorrow. I sat Etienne for Connor. Okay. Hey, I hadn't heard that one, Chase. Man, sitting Etienne for Connor. What did Connor? I don't know what. You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you, because I don't have him in any of my leagues, so I didn't really see what Connor did this last week. Let's look it up. I want to look it up because that's a guy that I think at some point in time this season is going to lose that backfield to Trey Benson. 16 rushes for 50 yards and a touchdown. 4 targets with 3 catches for 33 yards. He did have a 2-point conversion as well. So he had himself a pretty good week. So yeah, had Cooks Thursday night, so I feel like I can't hurt. Yeah, dude. Yeah, James Cook is a must start right now, guys. He's could be the number 1 running back in football this year. Potentially. I think Saquon Barkley is definitely going to have something to say about that. Um, but I think you're definitely looking at a top 3 this year for James Cook. I think this is his year. Um, and I think that team they're looking, you get rid of Stephon Diggs, you get rid of Gabe Davis, you add the young guys in there, you got Dalton Kincaid in there, but I think they are going to lean heavy on James Cook, and I think James Cook he's a bell cow. He sits when he's tired, and then he sits for a play, maybe two, and then he's back out there. James Cook is a must play every week for me. That's a guy that I'm not mentioning. Yeah, ever since Joe Brady took over, he has been used the way he should be. Yeah. And you're seeing Buffalo get rushing touchdowns that aren't Josh Allen. Before, I mean, I think they might already have more rushing touchdowns by a running back this year versus the last several years. I mean, last year was the first time they had a rushing touchdown from a running back in like 2 years. They're getting rushing touchdowns. It's just been Josh Allen. Well, now they're using James Cook. So, yeah, James Cook is a must play every week for me, guys. I'm not benching him. He's playing every week. He's a must start every week, regardless of the matchup. I think the Bills, they might be better this year than they have been. I think you get a little addition by subtraction with getting rid of Stephon Diggs, um, who I think is a little bit of a locker room. He's always getting in his quarterback's face. Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, and you're okay. I mean, what can you say? But yeah, James Cook every week. Play him. We'll see what happens with the ETN versus Jerome Ford. I'll post the video, let you guys know. But hey, guys, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate everyone for coming in, the questions, all that stuff. As always, guys, I'm Alan. I'll talk to you later. Deuces.